All right, guys, it is 8:15 on the nose on the station clock here. Hey, everybody, I'm Wave's storm tracking team meteorologist Ryan Hoke here. We're going to go through everything you need to know about Sunday's alert day in detail here over the next, let's say 20 to 45 minutes, depending on how many of you guys have questions here this evening. If you do happen to have questions, comments, hopefully no concerns, we'll try to assuage those if we can, of course. You can drop them in the comments sections here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch, on X/Twitter. We're on all of these different platforms. And of course, we're on Wave Weather now, our 24/7 live stream, which is available on wave3.com, the Wave Weather app, and the Wave Now app for your Roku, Apple, or Amazon Fire Smart TV device. All right, capiche? That is what we are tracking here. It is severe weather, and of course, it is not going to be tonight, but we're going to be talking about it as we head throughout the Sunday time frame here. Okay, I want to get to some of your comments first. We've already got a lot of folks in the room here. Let's see. Jackson on YouTube says, possible moderate risk. Yes, it's possible. It doesn't really matter at this point. Those are, for all intents and purposes, it's almost like a status symbol to say, oh, now we have a moderate risk. That doesn't matter. It's the impact that matters here. And that's what we're going to be focused on here, is what we think is going to happen and the factors that are going to lead to either this happening or not happening here on Sunday. All right. Let's see. Brandon's like, finally, feels like we've been waiting all day, LOL. Yes, 8:15 on the nose. That's when we come on, when we get within a day or two of an alert day here in the evenings here. We've already got questions from Margie on YouTube about timing. We're going to go over timing here in a minute. But for now, between noon and 4 a.m. on Sunday. So that's like late Sunday into early Monday, 12 p.m. noon to 4 a.m. on that Monday morning preceding the alert day on Sunday. Ashley's asking, supercells carry the highest tornado threat? Yes, that is also true. We'll get to that here in a second. I do want to get to what we have outside right now, and that is a lot of clouds, but some breaks in them. And those clouds kind of saved us today from any sort of widespread storm development earlier in the day. We had thought about yesterday at this time that we'd have storms on the radar right now, but this big cloud shield overspread us here. And that's what kind of put the big kibosh on the storms today. So it's been nice to have a calm day because we had storms Wednesday, we had storms Thursday, we've had warnings, and it's been like, okay, that's enough. Nothing was crazy, obviously, but we did have at least some gusty winds and some very minor damage here and there. What we see on the radar right now are a few downpours that are getting going over parts of eastern Carroll County. These are what's left over from some thunder showers and downpours that were in this region right here a little bit earlier. They have since moved to the north and the east, so we will see them off into the sunset as they move east of our counties, and then we will start to look to our west. And that is where we see thunderstorms across the St. Louis area, or just north of there, I really should say, with flash flood warnings. Now, that's no fun, right? Flooding is a killer. And unfortunately, they are dealing with some of that north of the St. Louis metro area today. What those storms will do, and I've drawn it on here, is those are going to dive down toward western Kentucky and the I-40 corridor in Tennessee. Some of those may clip our very western counties. We're talking like Breckenridge and Grayson counties may get clipped by these. We'll show you that with Futurecast tonight. That would be 2 to 3 a.m. when that happens. In fact, you can already see, if you look very closely, there's a little bit of a punch right here. If you watch the radar animation on that, that's starting to trend toward the south, and that's going to be the trend overnight. Now, notice how there are no severe thunderstorm warnings out to our west, except for the one near Springfield, Missouri. If I get the right tool. There we go. Circle it there. That's the only severe thunderstorm warning we have out there. These storms will start to trend downward in strength as they move in overnight tonight. Again, well after midnight by the time they try to pay a visit to us here. There is a front out to our west that's been sparking widespread storms today. You'll see those severe thunderstorm warnings from just south and east of like Olive Branch, Mississippi, over towards south and east of Little Rock there, and down into the northeastern corner of Texas as well. So this is our setup today. Of course, we're going to get to Sunday here in a minute. If you're just joining us, Sunday is our main conversation topic, but we want to get a few more folks here in the room so that we don't keep having the same questions asked over and over again from folks who are still trying to get the live stream up and running here on their end. But this is tonight, so 1 out of 5, marginal risk of severe weather. Most of this is going to be well to our west and northwest. Not terribly concerned about the overnight. Brian Good is actually going to be with you early tomorrow morning. He'll be keeping an eye on things late tonight, just in case. But I think we're going to be in fine shape. These storms will be weakening on arrival. Now, what about tomorrow? We did previously have a marginal risk of severe weather for tomorrow. That has since been allowed to go away. Storm Prediction Center pulled it east of us. The reason for that is because we had some pop-up storm potential here, but there really just aren't any ingredients for that to really see those storms get to a severe limit here. So a couple of pop-up downpours possible on Saturday. Again, we're talking Saturday right now. And that's during the afternoon, the early evening. If you are holding tickets for Gazebo Festival for Saturday, you're in pretty good shape. Sunscreen and water. Make sure you've got plenty of that because it will be sunny. You will get burned and you will get dehydrated if you don't drink enough water. All right, this is the elephant in the room. This is Sunday. I always wince when I see this map because it is not my favorite show. Enhanced risk, 3 out of 5 in our area. Yes, we've already had the question asked from Jackson on YouTube here. Could this go moderate? It's possible. If that were to happen, it'd probably be just north or northwest of us. Doesn't really matter. We could be under the moderate too. It's also possible. What the Storm Prediction Center is going to have to do here is look at the short-range model data that's going to continue to come in tonight. The 0Z HER model is going to be a huge run to determine what the heck's going to happen with this, because the 18Z came in, showed this big line of storms by 2 o'clock in the afternoon here on Sunday. It was a lot stronger than the other models. So it was like, okay, if that happens, then what happens to the supercells behind those? Will they form? Will the atmosphere be too disturbed? A lot of if this, then that logic on having 2 or 3 lines of, or rounds, I should say, of storms moving through at a given day. Usually one of those, at least one of those, fails to live up to standards just because the models tend to reinvigorate the atmosphere with fuel behind these storms too quickly. And in reality, that just doesn't happen. The atmosphere takes a lot more time than that to re-energize, to gas up the tank, if you will, for more severe weather. So in my opinion here, even though you'll probably see these 3 rounds of storms on Futurecast, only 1 or 2 of those rounds will likely be severe. It is possible all 3 could be, but we've seen these sort of rapid fire setups where, one line of storms influences the next round, and you just don't have all the energy that you need. All right. So I want to put that bug in your ear first that this is not set in stone. There are factors that are contributing to uncertainty at this point, and there are factors contributing to the potential for a bust for some of this. I don't think all of this will be a bust. I think there's going to be at least 1 round of storms that is severe and could be quite severe. So the alert day is definitely warranted here for our Sunday. This enhanced risk, definitely warranted here for Sunday. It's all there. The ingredients are there, but the what we call mesoscale interactions between the storms, those are a little bit more uncertain. And those are the factors that are kind of keeping us from going, full gung-ho on severe weather everywhere all at once for Sunday, all right? There are those factors holding us back. All right, so let's talk about tonight in a little bit more detail with Futurecast. First off, we're storm-free for the most part, still by about 11 o'clock. Notice the storms try to move in from the west around 3 a.m., but they fade on approach on this particular run of the HRRR. This particular run I don't like because it also tried to fire up a bunch of storms around 11 a.m. tomorrow, which does not jive with anything I've looked at this evening. We'll see. There could be a pop-up shower or 2 in the morning. I think with this wave of energy moving through, it's kind of just an old boundary from the storms from tonight out to our west trying to move in. I don't know if it'll have enough fuel in the tank, though, to really fire up what the HER would have shown. I stopped it before it got to that point because I didn't want to make the wrong impression there. But nonetheless, just know that there is a small chance for some isolated pop-up showers, not only in the morning, but also in the afternoon and evening tomorrow. So if you're going to day 1 of Gazebo Festival on the waterfront, or maybe you're going to Abbey Road on the river, should be in pretty good shape. Just make sure sunscreen and water are in your bag, ready to go. and have the Wave Weather app too, just in case one of these pop-up storms happens to, get going closer to the city here. We'll let you know, because we can draw literally a circle around the festival on a map and send a push notification to all those folks who have the follow me functionality of the Wave Weather app turned on. When you go to the location and the little sidebar on the left, you can have it follow you. And we can't tell where you are, by the way. I have no clue. But the app will know where you are at. So when we send out a push notification, it'll go, okay, that's a push notification I need to let my user know about. That's what it's doing. It's doing that, what we call client side there. So I have no idea where you're at if you push that follow me button on there. All right. Futurecast shows the morning potential round of storms. This is a different run of the HRRR model. I'm going to back this up. This was a little bit more aggressive. This is from earlier. This is the 18Z for you model watchers out there. The 0Z will be in here in about an hour or so. I forget the exact time on that, but I know by the 11 it's in. But you'll see that line of storms out to our west, it kind of keeps some of their punch, and they fade as they arrive, just brushing by some of our counties of central and southern Kentucky after about 2 o'clock in the morning here. That's still possible, but given the trends, I'm thinking the other run, the 22Z that I just showed you, is probably more correct, with the storms being even more faded than that, trying to move through our area. So that's tomorrow morning. This particular run doesn't show any pop-ups around midday, but it does start to get going with a couple of downpours, 10, 20% chance for those afternoon, early evening. By the time the sun sets, all that shuts down, and we won't have to worry about that anymore. All right, this is what you've been waiting for. This is the thing that has been on our minds for the last few days. And of course, the alert day has been out for this day for a while, for Sunday. But now today, we've taken the step of putting some times on it. And we're going to share with you not only the times that you see here, but we're going to show Futurecast. We've got a lot of ways to break this down to make this hopefully a little bit more tangible for folks who may not be good with maps or maybe not be good with words. It just depends on, who you are, right? So we have a lot of different ways to show this here. We've got a lot of folks in the room here with us, over 450 people among Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, all combined there. We've got DJ King is on the line here from North Vernon, Indiana. Hello to DJ. This is funny. This is Todd Richmond. Todd, hello, by the way. Good friend of the weather department, and Kevin's here. He says, if Kevin is out of town, we're doomed. It always happens when he goes on vacation. Lately that track record has actually been not as bad as it once was back in the 2010s. The 2020s have not been as bad for that. I was on vacation last year when the July 3rd and 4th, I can't remember the exact date, round of crazy storms moved through. So that time it was me. So I was the guy out of town during severe weather. But yes, if it seems historically, if Kevin is on vacation, then it will be storming. But regardless of that, by the way, we've got our whole team assembled here. Kevin is watching from afar. He'll be pitching in if necessary here on Sunday. So it's not that, we're all kind of in vacation mode. We're far from it. We're going to have a full staff this weekend in time for Sunday. So no need to worry about that. Karen, I should say, there we are. Karen says, I'm a vendor at an outdoor wedding Sunday, 3 to 9 p.m. Let's hope that there's a pretty good dry slot in this warm sector here. And I'm going to detail that here in a second. And you might be able to be okay. This doesn't mean that Sunday is a complete washout. It does not mean that Sunday has storms happening all the time. There are going to be some several hour breaks to maybe 5-6 hour breaks possibly within that noon to 4 a.m. window. That's noon Sunday to 4 a.m. Monday. The reason we have to kind of cast this wide net here on the timing is because we're just not confident enough to drill down more than that. There's some blocks of time we've kind of specified in the middle that I'll get to in a minute here when certain things may happen. But that's kind of the bottom line. All right. 2 to 3 rounds of storms. Again, not all of those rounds may be severe. The first one and the second one are the iffiest. The third one, depending on what happens with the first and second, I think the third one has the best chance of being severe just because it's the line of storms moving through ahead of the cold front, because it's like the most surefire storm chance. But if round number 1 and number 2 go absolutely crazy, then round number 3 may not be so bad. See how these storms all kind of lean on one another, right? If a round of storms prior to another one is super crazy and sweeps through the area and, gives all this rain, cooled air and cloud cover to us, it can disturb the next round. So that's why there's uncertainty with this on the mesoscale level, the kind of fine detail level of this. The tornado threat would be highest with afternoon supercell storms, should they form. And notice I wrote, should they form. There is still a big if on that. If we get supercell storms, we could see, between 2 and 5 literally of these just supercell thunderstorms. When we say supercell, they're individual storm cells, and they're super because they're intense. They're some of the most intense thunderstorms on Earth. These supercell storms, I've stared them down dozens of times before in the plains as a storm chaser, and they carry the highest tornado threat of any storm type you can get because they have an unencumbered inflow into the storm with warm air. They've got no other storms around them to really bump into them and disturb the tornado threat. So those are the ones that give us pause and that give us real concern. So it's still an if. We don't know necessarily if those storms will form. And if they do, where would that be? Would it be closer to I-65, like some of the data has been showing today? Would it be closer to I-75 east of us, where some of the data has been showing that? And a lot of the data says maybe no storms at all during that period. So there's still some iffiness to that. And that's what the Storm Prediction Center is going to have to grapple with, is sort of the mesoscale mess that this is going to make when you've got 1, 2, 3 rounds of potential storms on the maps like that. And all severe weather hazards are possible with any 3 of those rounds I just talked about here. This is another way to show this more in a graph form for those who did well in math class in school. You may recognize this bar graph here, but you'll see that between that noon Sunday and 4 a.m. Monday timeframe, the bars are red. That red denotes when there could be severe weather. So we're just highlighting that period, saying, hey, look at the red here. That means these are the storms and the storm chances that would carry the severe weather threat. 2 o'clock, that initial line of storms moves through. It's a lower chance late afternoon, early evening with the supercell threat because we're not quite as sure on that. And the coverage of those storms will be a lot lower too. So there's both coverage and probability going into those chances being as low as they are. And the coverage and the likelihood of storms both goes up by 12 midnight, 1, 2 a.m. And that's why we get up to a 90% chance of storms by 2 o'clock in the morning, early Monday morning. That front's going to be pushing in, plenty of lift. Even if the storms before it are crazy, there's still going to be, enough lift to punch something through our area. The severity of that would be, in question if the storms before that final 3rd round, if they are super widespread and severe. So that's kind of a graph way to look at it. So a map way to look at it is like this. And this is Futurecast. What I'm showing here is a semi-proprietary model called the Graph, GRAF, developed by IBM, now the weather company. TV meteorologists all over the country show this. This isn't like something you can go find for free on the internet, though. And we actually, Brian Good and myself, had a conversation today about this very model, and we thought it was doing a pretty good job, kind of showing the different rounds and kind of figuring out initial conditions right now so that we knew that going forward, it at least knew what was going on now to, sort of have a better forecast based on that alone. So this is okay. This isn't going to be gospel truth. This is not going to be the end all, but this is at least an idea, one model run, indicating what might happen here on Sunday. All right. So we start out with an 8 a.m. timing here on Sunday. It's quiet. So at least we start off Sunday good. Sunday services, check, you're good. But look what happens as we get toward 2 o'clock. This is this first round of storms. I'm going to back this up a little bit. And you'll see that after about lunchtime here, around lunchtime, I should say, 11 a.m., 12 p.m., these storms are moving through. This particular model, the graph here, has trended toward the HRRR model in having these storms be pretty potent. They would at least be strong moving in. And the hope is that these storms would go all the way down to the Tennessee border, which they do not on this one. But if they did, that would help to kind of sweep out some of the unstable warm air over our area, throw some clouds into the mix, and hopefully protect us from the supercells that could develop later in the afternoon. So this first line of storms is a good thing. Yes, it may be severe. We may have problems with that. We might have warnings, all right? And that's not good. But I would much rather deal with this than supercell storms. And that is just because of the strength of the supercell storms. This would be more widespread. And that could be a problem too, by the way. Widespread storms are no good. But the intensity of these would be lower than supercell storms and what they could do to a smaller area that could be much more impactful. So just something to keep in mind, food for thought, if you will. So now we get into this between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. time frame here on Sunday. And this is what I'll call the supercell zone. This particular model doesn't really do much with that. Now it does, kind of bring in a cluster of storms across our northern counties, across US 50, and then tries to regenerate a few more. Some of these may be supercells or have supercell structures in them, but it's not really like giving us these individual storm cells that would look like big chunks of popcorn on the radar, like the NAM has been doing, for instance, if you're a model watching nerd here. So this is an idea. Again, the sheer setup may be such that this merges into a line of storms. We kind of have to see hour by hour how that goes. And if this were to happen, I'm going to back it up. So we're back at 7:30 p.m. going forward to about 10 o'clock here. If this scenario were to happen, there'd be quite the flooding potential, because this line of storms is moving south very slowly. So flooding is something we'll have to deal with, potentially a few flash flood warnings on Sunday as well. So don't sleep on that. That's very dangerous, especially as the sun sets. So that's the supercell round. I don't have a whole lot to show you on this model for that. And that's probably a product of what happens right here earlier in the day around noontime, when those storms are punching through, disturbs the atmosphere, and you try to get some storms developing behind that. Again, supercell structure is possible in there. There's a lot of wind shear in the atmosphere, but the thermodynamic profile behind these initial round of storms around noontime is going to be critical here. What it leaves behind, how widespread they are, and what the storms can do after that. Okay, so we get you to post 9 p.m. And based on some of the NAM data and the other data I've seen today, that seems to be the transition period between when the supercells would be on the radar and when we would be tracking, if I could say that, possibly multiple lines of storms. So this would be round 3, but it may be comprised of multiple lines. And that would be after 9 p.m. Sunday night. So that would be between 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. So that's a long window too. I get that that's not the best, but hey, welcome to storm season, right? So this is around 1:30 in the morning, Monday. Notice these storms pushing in from the north and west, cold fronts knocking on our door, prefrontal wave kind of pushing all of these through as well here. So, these could very well be severe, but you're kind of seeing how this isn't like a solid line of storms, and there's some stronger sections. It's kind of just disjointed. A lot of that may be because of the, again, thermodynamic profile left over from the first and possibly the second round of storms moving through, and there not being a lot of instability to work with by this point. We just have to see how clean the separation is. If we see any sunlight at all on Sunday afternoon, bad news bears. All right, that's just not good. We do not want to see sun on Sunday afternoon. I'm going to back up the Futurecast one more time here just to kind of drill that point home. Notice how this initial line of storms moves through, and it makes it cloudy for a time, but the sun starts to come out in our Kentucky counties south of Louisville by about 3, 4 o'clock. Will that be too little, too late? We'll see. But plenty of time for the sun to come out post that round of storms. But it depends on how much rain-cooled air is left behind, the cloud cover. You get the gist. We've been talking about that. So when does this all finally end? It ends by roughly around 4-ish a.m. Monday morning. I always go about an hour before the models say like this on the timing, because it usually ends up being a bit faster. The models are typically just like an hour behind, a little slow, and that could be applied to several different of these high-resolution convective allowing models, as we call them here, like this one here, the graph. So that's the idea behind what we will potentially see on Sunday when it comes to the maps, the Futurecast here. And again, this is just one idea, not the gospel truth. We may have a few more pop-up storms on Monday for Memorial Day in the afternoon. That doesn't look to be too big of a deal right now, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So this is the enhanced risk in a county view here. And this is also a great time for me to get on a soapbox. Oh, here we go. But this is a good one. Know where you live. It's that easy. I know that sounds like super basic and like, okay, Ryan, we're not in kindergarten. But no, I really do mean it. Know where you live. A lot of folks don't know which county they're in. A lot of folks don't know where their county is in relation to other counties, in relation to the Ohio River. You don't know what part of the county you live in. So like if you live in Shelby County, I live in Simpsonville. Where is that in relation to Shelbyville? You should know that. If you live in Henry County, where is that in relation to US 421? You should know that. You should know, roughly where in the county you live. You don't have to know like the exact coordinates and being a nerd or anything like that, but just roughly, so that when we are in a situation on Sunday when we're doing wall-to-wall coverage and your phone's going nuts and you've got warnings coming out, you will know by looking on the TV screen where you are at in relation to the storms, you will know in relation to where the storms are on your phone as well. Now, I know your phone puts a nice little blue dot or circle around where you live, and that's very helpful. But when we are breaking this down on TV, we can show things that your phone can't. Even the Wave Weather app can't show velocity. We can show that, and that's going to be very critical that you know where you're living, so that when you see, your little town name or somewhere nearby, and this little bright rotational couplet moving in. And we're saying, hey, here's where the rotation is, then you'll know, hey, okay, now it's time for me to be in the basement. Obviously, when there's a tornado warning, be in the basement, but it's definitely going to be go time when that couplet is near your place. And of course, as always, this sounds weird, but it's backed up by literal science here. A helmet, like a bicycle helmet, a motorcycle helmet, skateboard helmet, whatever covers your head with a helmet, work helmet too, hard hat. All of these things are great to have on standby. Just, keep them in your living room, just in case you get a tornado warning issued for your area. Put those on the kids first, and then if you got some left over, put them on you. Head injuries are, of course, a problem in a tornado, and make sure you're wearing shoes too if you are to be put under a tornado warning, just in case something happens, God forbid, and you, of course, want to be able to walk around on that debris when you emerge after the fact. All right. I know this is not fun stuff to talk about, but I'd rather talk about it now than have folks panicking on Sunday if a tornado warning is issued for your location and you don't know what to do. I know the kind of response for some folks is to freeze, and we don't want you to do that. We want you to have a plan in mind. So, spend some time tomorrow. It literally take just 5-10 minutes. And if it helps you, put it down on a piece of paper. I know I just put it on notepad in my phone here. It's easy. It's nearby. Just, write down a couple lines of what you would do in a tornado warning, so that literally you can just pull that up and be like, execute that. Just do that. It'll make it so much easier for you and your family, so you don't have like the reaction to freeze, because that can happen. This is the bottom line on this for Sunday, though. Noon to 4 a.m. I know that's a wide window. We've discussed kind of the micro windows within that. We'll be able to tighten this up, hopefully, in the coming 24 hours. But for now, this is what we've got, because of the data still being kind of a mix of some higher res and lower res data. Once we get into after 0Z tonight, but that 0Z data, I should say, because it technically is after 0Z right now, we'll have more of that high res data, and we can hopefully start to pare down that window, so it's not like, oh my gosh, like it's all of Sunday. It's not, but that's just the window we have for you. All right. And damaging winds, large hail. This could be very large hail if the instability is realized. Scattered tornadoes are possible. There's kind of some levels to the tornado threats that we put on this here that we type in. We say isolated tornado when it's the lowest tornado chance. Isolated tornadoes, plural, when we're kind of getting up there a little bit more. And then we get to scattered tornadoes. So that's kind of the level 3 out of 5. We've got some other phrases we would use past that, but I don't think that's necessary right now based on what I'm seeing because of the iffiness with the supercell. So let's keep that iffiness going, shall we? We really don't want supercells in this area. Those are no good. And then flash flooding is a definite concern here. That goes for any thunderstorm, especially when we've been so saturated lately. So a different way to show this, because we're just kind of exploring all the different ways to kind of show the threats here so that you can understand this the best, is through kind of ranking them, right? So the wind threat is obviously the highest, because even these lines of storms are going to carry a wind threat with them. Damaging winds could exceed 60, 70 miles per hour with these storms, because there's a lot of wind energy in the atmosphere, and these storms will be able to exploit that. Tornado threat and the hail threat, I've held that back to a 3 out of 5 both, just because I don't see the tornado threat being at the widespread level that the wind threat is. Now, if the supercell threat starts to come up in the data in the next 12 to 24 hours, you would see that tick up. But for now, I don't think that's necessary. And of course, the hail threat is definitely there too. We are no stranger to large hail this season. This has been the severe weather season from HECK, heck. Let's get this thing over with, right? We've got some long-term severe weather stuff, by the way, for the long-range forecast coming up here in just a moment. If you're wondering about what happens after this, I've got a little snippet of that. And of course, flooding is a 2 out of 5. At this point, it's definitely concerning, but it's not like it's not super bad, just because I think these storms will be progressive, at least the first 2 rounds. At third round, we'll see. If that looks like it's going to get hung up over us more, we'd have to put the flooding up. So something to consider. Oh, and speaking of, I didn't realize that was my next thing, but here we go. So what happens after Sunday? So I've kind of gone through over the last almost 30 minutes here, kind of talking about what's happening tonight, Saturday, and then Sunday. So what about storms after that? Well, I'll take this map full here, and you'll see that this is the Colorado State University Machine Learning Program forecast. It's AI, but it's pretty good in the long range. We don't use it really in the short range much. So I would not really pay attention to what you see over here. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. For Sunday, that is nuts, right? You're going to look at it, so I'm going to at least talk about it for a minute. Yeah, for Sunday, it's got some crazy stuff going on here. That's pretty high. We have seen that before, and we've also seen that not pan out when that's happened. So for all intents and purposes, I don't want you to focus on that. This is a little too close for us to be depending on AI, all right? Human forecasters at the Storm Prediction Center are better at this range, much better, okay? But once you get past, kind of Sunday and beyond, that's when we can still look at some AI stuff. And, it shows possibly a few stronger storms south and east of us on Monday, potentially here. Not a huge deal. I think a lot of this will be south and east of us. We may have a pop-up storm chance on Monday. And then look at this. Tuesday, we are good. Wednesday, we are good. Thursday, we are good. Friday, we are good. We enter into a very calm period, all right? And, that really does start on Memorial Day when we've got the small storm chance in the morning here and then the potential for a pop-up storm or two in the afternoon. All right, this is our 10-day earliest alert, just to kind of put a finer point on that calm weather next week. I called this San Diego weather on the air earlier tonight. That's basically between Tuesday and really Saturday of next week. So we almost get a full week where it's almost completely dry. That'll be great because I know my backyard is an Everglades swamp right now from all the rain that we've had, just relentless, half-inch, 1-inch rains that we've had lately. This has been an exceptionally dry spring or wet spring. Thankfully, that leads to no drought likely this summer, but we'll see how that goes. I doubt we'll get to 100 degrees this summer just because of how wet the ground has been, how wet it's been lately. That typically factors into that later in the summer. Of course, with the standard boilerplate, we'll see attached to the end of that with anything super long-term like that. Okay. So that is what we are tracking for Sunday especially. We've gone through everything. I do want to get to some of your comments and questions. We're going to spend probably about 10 minutes on that. I know we've got over 550 people with us here on social media, and I really appreciate you tuning in this evening. So let's go into the comments, shall we? Shonda says, that's the whole idea. Don't let your guard down. Yes. Don't sleep on this weekend. Have the Wave Weather app. We're going to send out custom push notifications to areas that are in trouble. And, we'll let you know when things are getting rough. All right. Michaela is asking the inevitable question that comes up every time we have a severe weather event. She's asking, is this Sunday storm system similar to the one we had on May 8th? Everyone always wants to compare to either two things, either the last event or a huge event, right? So like March 2nd, April 3rd, et cetera. This is a little different. This has a lot more rounds of storms built into it with some bust potential. It's just hard to compare because every one of these is different. I will say we're in the same pattern as last time. So the results may not be too unlike that, but we'll see what happens. We need more data. And honestly, you just don't know for sure until the morning of, because that's when you get all the surface observations, the satellite for the day. You see where all the players are in the field, and then you know what play is going to be made. You just don't know really until that morning of. But at this point, we can give you our best, really good educated guess. And that guess gets more accurate as we get closer to the event here. Let's see. Angela Vanderberg, how are Cape values trending for Sunday? I was looking at soundings today, and those are basically vertical profiles of the atmosphere, or a forecast version of that. And they were showing like 3,300 surface-based Cape, which is pretty high. There's plenty of instability for this, for at least the initial round. And then we'll have to see if that redevelops after that initial round, how strong that is. Does the initial round even happen? So there's just still a lot of push and pull on this. The atmosphere has the potential to have a lot of instability, all right? The potential is there. What the mesoscale or small scale factors do, the storm timing, the placement, the clouds, what those do to influence that is not under our control at this point, so we don't know that. JD here on YouTube, should I be worried about really bad tornadoes for Sunday now? I'm terrified of severe storms. My family will be in Indy and I will be at home. Yeah, we got the Indianapolis 500 happening on Sunday. That's not good timing wise for these storms. That's also another thing that, here in Louisville, Kentucky, we can't worry too much about, but something just to at least put on your radar that Indianapolis, Indiana is having a huge outdoor event on Sunday in the kind of the middle of this time frame here. The question that you're asking, JD, about the really bad tornadoes, we'll know more about that tomorrow. I don't want to make any sort of, guess on just how bad this could be until I know more about the supercell potential. Because if the supercell potential is there in the afternoon, if that does transpire, that would be a problem. We could see some stronger tornadoes if that happens. But if we see the lines of storms, that would pare back the tornado strength quite a bit, because tornadoes in lines of storms typically aren't as strong as those in supercells. So I don't want to jump on that train just yet of, oh my gosh, big tornado, this, that, and the other. I want to approach this cautiously and calmly. And when we have the data that shows that we might have some trouble with that, we'll let you know. But for now, we're just a little too early. We're literally just hours early for me to take a little stab at that. So hopefully that makes sense. Storm Chaser Brody on YouTube. Do you think a cap will hold off the supercells on Sunday? And that is exactly the point I was making. Yes, that is what I am hoping for. I don't want to bank on that just because we've seen that also go the other direction. We have been saved by the cap at least once this season in severe weather events of recent. So it is possible, especially with that initial round of storms trying to move through, depends on what state those are in, how much of a cap is that going to redevelop over our area. Will it get too hot behind that? There was some data from the NAM today saying we get to 89 degrees on Sunday. And if that happens, that air would be too warm, and that would be the cap essentially. So there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts behind that are kind of arguing against the supercells at the moment. So you've got the cap, and then of course you've got the potential for that initial round of storms to disturb the atmosphere and kind of junk up things. So supercells are picky. They need a specific environment. They need a lot of moisture. They need just the right wind shear so that they can stay individualized. They do need a little bit of a cap just to keep all the storms from going up at once and bumping into each other and becoming a line. So supercells, they are fickle. It is tough to get them to form around here. They do happen, and there is the concern for that, but it's not a slam dunk. Okay, let's see. Cameron saying, seems like the morning convection Sunday is changing more and allowing more time for destabilizing the afternoon with the sun if it's out, and that will be a concern to keep watching. Yes. If those storms are earlier, there would be more time for sunlight in the afternoon. Absolutely. And again, if you get too hot, then you would have a cap aloft at 850 millibars, and then that would be kind of a kibosh on the supercells too. So a couple of ways that could go badly, but also, at least one way that, it could be busted up too. So we'll see what happens on that. I need more data. That's what we needed to say. Yeah, Jordan makes a good point. Yeah, we should know a lot more 12 hours from now and even a lot more this time tomorrow. Yes, I need 0Z data tonight. That's, we're kind of coming on the air on our live stream with one hand tied behind our back this evening, because that 0Z data is really going to start seeing more of that time frame for Sunday, especially the HRRR, and that will be that'll be very helpful. Ronaldo is asking, what's the chance for supercells in Bullitt County on Sunday? I do not have that. I don't know, because I need to figure out if anyone's going to see that first. So I just don't have it. Let's see. Oh, Todd's referencing the video from out west. Earlier this week, some of the most incredible tornado video you will ever see. I don't have it pulled up. I should have done that. Rats. Hindsight's 2020. But yeah, huge wind turbines being brought down by a tornado out west. I think that was in Iowa. I want to say Iowa. Greenfield, Iowa got hit by an EF4 tornado earlier this week. Like, awful stuff. And the video that came from that was insane. Multi-vortex tornado was huge. There was drone video from Reed Timmer's team. He's a big storm chaser. If you don't know who he is, he's all over YouTube. And it was nuts. It was awful. It was awe-inspiring and horrifying and weird and strange all at the same time. But yeah, that video was something else, seeing the wind turbine come down in the aftermath of that tornado. Brandon says, don't leave the basement on Sunday. Got it. Not quite. And I left this graphic up here and I probably shouldn't have, but between noon and 4 a.m. is kind of that big time window. There's going to be a ton of times in that window when it's not storming. All right. So it's not that bad. All right. But it is something to keep an eye on. Let's see here. Brandon's asking, do you think we could get the kind of tornadoes that Kansas and Oklahoma could get tomorrow? I don't think it's like that. Again, that's a plane setup. Those are going to be supercells for sure. This one has a lot of ifs, ands, or buts. This part of the country, because of how far east we are from, sort of some of the elements aloft that give them the really crazy shear that gets those supercells just to individualize. We just don't have that as often here. We typically don't get like a southeast or east wind going into these storms, which increases the low level wind shear. We're typically stuck with a south or southwest or west wind, which keeps the low level wind shear from going nuts and kind of keeps the supercells from being so individualized and the tornadoes from being so crazy around here. It definitely looks worse out there tomorrow than it does here on Sunday, just for some reference, if you will. Ashley, yes, it is on YouTube. Literally just search for Greenfield, Iowa tornado. You will see it. It is there. It is nuts. Shauna brings up a good point. She keeps storm supplies in her basement. I think that's a great idea. Just in case, bottles of water, battery-powered flashlights, make sure the batteries work. Weather radio, if you've got an extra one, put it down there. It's a good idea. Let's see if we've got any more questions here. I've gotten to the end of the live comments, so let's go back a little bit. Ashley is talking about how we've had so many enhanced risks of severe weather this year. Yes. We've had a lot of these more elevated severe weather risks. And like I said, we can't rule out going moderate tomorrow. We'll see. I literally just need to see that 0Z data here before I start to really think more about that. Scott says, today was my last day of school. I go to Barrett Traditional. I'm going into 7th grade. Well, congrats, Scott. That's awesome. I'm so happy that JCPS is done for the year and you get to have a summer break. Remember those days? I was a weather geek. I went to Newburgh Middle School, by the way. If you ever, if you play on any sports teams or chess or quick recall or whatever, and you play Newburgh, that was my school when I was a kid. I used to play on their quick recall team. I was in their MST program, and that's how I got the manual. Let's see what else we got going on here. We've talked about the timing. Talked about the tornado threat with the supercells here. Let's see other comments. We're going to wrap this up here shortly. LA's in the room. Oh, if you ever see LA Davis in these comments, you're in for a good time. LA is an engineer that works here, by the way. He says, that'll really do it, Ryan. And the team 7 p.m. come back, and they are still here when I get back at the start of my shift. Yeah, we're here all the time. When the weather is bad, we are here. We basically live here. It's funny. I think we may still have a cot or two in the basement to sleep on, but I don't think anybody's ever used that in the last 10 years because we're so busy with things like this. It's not just appointment television anymore. We've got things to do in between that now. Sean is asking what time do the next runs come out. I was referencing the 0Z earlier. That should be within the next hour or two on the HRRR, and that will really help us out. Todd says, as long as Jim Cantori from the Weather Channel and Reed Timmer are nowhere in our neighborhoods this weekend, we're good. Yeah, whenever they're around, that's a bad sign. And unfortunately, we've had them somewhat close by already this year. I think we are getting close to the end of this broadcast here. I have to get to this one. I mean, if you comment like this, of course, I'm going to put you up here and all right, Leah. Okay, here we go. The fact that it hasn't stormed or rained at any time any of the meteorologists predicted in the last 3 weeks, I think I'll keep my plans in place and take care of this info and disregard it. Okay, you can do that. That's fine. But just know that, what we provide you is a free service, and we do our best. This is a really tough time of year. This is kind of like snow season. we have been humbled this season for sure. I will agree, but we're here to keep you safe. And if there's ever a point when we can keep your family safe and give you a heads up, we're going to do it. So, take what you want from that information there. And there you go. That's all I'm going to say. And by the way, just to make your comments a little more easy to read on the air here, just keep an eye on periods. Make sure that, you're using them. That might be helpful too, just so I can read it easier on the air, because it's tough to read something cold on a live broadcast. Our TV news anchors know that very well when they have to go in cold to something like that and read it live. It's like, So just a point to everyone, by the way. I'm not just picking on her here. Just make sure it's readable so I could, pick your comment out and display it, because that's what we like to do. Mickey Davis, Newberg and Manual grad here too. You took the same combo I did. There's a few of us rare birds around. I think from my class at Newberg, we had maybe 6 or 7 that went to Manual, maybe 8. Can't remember. One of them, I actually spoke at her 3rd grade class at Foster Traditional Academy last week. Like, that's cool. She was one of the rare Newberg Manual kids like I was. We stayed together from 7th grade all the way to 12th grade in school. Let's see. Toby's asking about 5 p.m. on Sunday, graduation party. Yeah, there's a lot of those going on. And unfortunately, you're just going to have to keep up with the Wave Weather app there, because the window is wide. I think that is a period where you could have some luck, though, because even if these supercell storms do develop, they won't be everywhere. They would actually affect small areas, good and bad, because it'd be super intense, but small area. At least there's that. And you might be able to get through that period. We'll see. Like I was talking about the wedding vendor earlier, who had an engagement at the same time there that she had to provide her services for. Is like, what do I do about that? But at this point, just hang tight. Somebody on YouTube, a programming manual. I was HSU. I did not go into MST. I liked sleeping and, kind of work-life balance. So HSU was mine. And I could also take some broadcasting, public, speaking type of classes there as well. So that's why I wanted to have more of a diverse sort of thing, not just math, science, technology, go. I wanted a little bit of art, a little bit of, communication in there too. So I could do that. And this person is doing MST at Manual next year, my first year. Awesome. Congratulations on getting into Manual and getting into MST. That is tough. A good program there, though, but you're gonna study hard. I'll tell you that. Enough about my high school days. Goodness, this makes it seem like I peaked in high school. I didn't. I was like the biggest nerd in high school and was on my computer most of the time. Ashley's asking again here. Okay, so supercells, big ones, and initial and final spin-ups. Yes, just to make that clear to the rest of us here. The supercell storms would be associated with the second of 3 rounds here if they are to develop. And those would have the potential for larger tornadoes should they form. Again, lots of ifs, ands, or buts on that. We're not clear on that yet. Spin-up tornadoes would be with the first and third rounds of storms. Yes, there could be some stronger tornadoes embedded in that too, depending on the setup. But generally, it wouldn't. In general, the rule of thumb is those wouldn't have as strong of a tornado potential. They would have tornadoes, but just not as strong tornadoes, if that makes sense. This is great. Okay, Sarah. Yes, Sarah, you bring up a fantastic point. I'm getting on my soapbox again. This will be the last one here. I learned my lesson last time. Don't use the past and future on wave radar on the app. It isn't always accurate. Yes. Oh, this gets under my skin. And this is something out of our control, unfortunately. This is our app vendor that set this up. And meteorologists all over the country have been screaming about this with these weather apps. So on the radar, on the Wave Weather app here, I might be able to actually show it. I have an idea. On the Wave Radar app, or the Wave Weather app, depending on what you call it, when you go down to, I can actually see that. Perfect. Okay, maybe I'll tilt it up. Oh, my brightness may be too high. Let me turn my brightness down. Maybe then you'll be able to see it. Yeah, that's killer. Okay, so there's a button right here on the radar view. It's this guy right here. I know you can't see it, but if you are familiar with the Wave Weather app and are on the radar tab here, and you tap that, it says either future, past, or past and future. Please, for the love of all that is holy, turn that to say past. Make sure that says past. Past only, just past. Make sure it says past. Did you hear that 3 times? Good. Because that will show you real, actual radar data. If you go into the future or the past and future, you're going to start leaking into the land of computer modeling, and it does not do well all the time, or even most of the time on this particular setup here. So past, make sure that says past on your radar, and you can't go wrong. And that will show you the real radar in real time, what's heading your direction. I know some folks like the future because they can try to predict what's going to happen, but that's one model run and one idea on there, and that's not always the best. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. It's 9:06. Brandon's asking a great question. When will you all be streaming again? Will it be tomorrow? Yes, I will be back on here tomorrow. Let me do a little head calculation here. We have a 6 o'clock newscast, ends at 6:30. So expect me an hour earlier tomorrow. So I'll try to be on by 7:15. If you have the Wave weather app, I'll send you a push notification. Boop, real easy. The Wave News app will do the same. And Wave Weather Now is the place that you can watch us on all the time, 24/7. We're the only 24/7 local weather channel here in Louisville. It's awesome because it's all local information. It's got stuff you won't see anywhere else. It has our hand-developed forecast in there, not just some AI bot thing or weird computer model. But Wave Weather Now, it's wave3.com/weather now. If you want to do it on a web browser, you can see it in the Wave Weather app. Just hit Watch Live, and it'll bring you straight to that stream. And you can also watch it on the Wave Now app for Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. It's the second streaming option on that app, by the way. You'll see Wave Weather Now. There's like 2 different thumbnails. It's pretty easy to see, but just reminder, it's the second one there because that's kind of our B stream, if you will. But for us in weather, it's our A stream, if you get my drift there, because that's the one we focus on. Yeah, Wave Weather Now is the place to be. And I'll be back here close to 7:15 tomorrow. We'll have a lot more clarity, a lot more timing, a lot more data, a lot more just in general about Sunday. We'll be able to really pin some things down, and hopefully we can assuage some concerns. That's my goal here. We don't want to, flap our hands around, get dramatic, and upset people. We just don't. Look, there's 5 meteorologists who work on this team. 4 out of the 5 are from the Louisville area, and the 5th has adopted Louisville as her home, and we love her to death, and she's basically a Louisvillian. So we'll just say everybody's from Louisville. So we all have family and friends here, and we care about this community in a way that I think other stations don't have that advantage of, because this is home. We're here. We're staying. So we don't want our neighbors, our friends, to be in a position where they are scared, and we don't want to be exacerbating that. We want to hopefully make people feel better, and we want to make people feel safe and secure, and we want people to feel prepared, probably most importantly, because preparedness is key. If you know where you're going to go, if you have your supplies ready with, no weather radio, Wave Weather app, knowing where to go, having a plan of where to go in your house, or if you're in a mobile home or a trailer, as it were, having a place to go if a tornado warning is issued, knowing what building you can find. You need to evacuate in a mobile home during a tornado warning, period, full stop. I've seen the aftermath of an EF1 tornado on 2 trailers in Harrison County. It was not pretty. And those folks were in a building when it happened. They were fine. They wouldn't have been if they were in the trailer or the mobile home, all right? So just keep that in mind, too. I know a lot of us, that's our home, and that's cool, by the way. We just have to know what to do in a tornado warning if we live in a mobile home or trailer. Somebody's soapboxes to get on tonight, right? There's a lot going on this weekend. All right, guys, Z data is rolling out according to Brody here. I'm getting ready to go look at that, and we'll ingest that and share with you some of the results on Wave News at 11 p.m. tonight. If you're local to us, that's Wave on television. You can watch our live streams as well on wave3.com starting at 11 p.m., and I'll get you kind of the skinny on what's going down there. And we'll be back here live streaming on this platform. Brian Good will be here in the morning, by the way, so he'll likely have a morning update tomorrow, somewhere around 8 or 9 a.m. Depends on his schedule tomorrow, and then I'll be back here same bat station, same bat channel at 7:15. All right, that's it, guys, for now. I'm meteorologist Ryan Hoke, Wave News. And if you're local to us, tune into our newscast tonight at 11 p.m. Have a good night, everybody, and we will see you back here tomorrow here on Wave Weather Now, our 24/7 live local stream here for the Louisville area.